In the heart of Nigeria's Benue State lies Zaki-Biam, a town once celebrated as Africa's yam capital, a place where farmers, traders, and families gathered, where yams were piled high like small hills, and commerce thrived. But in October 2001, the name Zaki-Biam became synonymous with something darker. Not with abundance, not with trade, but with blood. Hundreds of civilians killed, villages razed to the ground, families wiped out. And the hands that carried out the killings were not foreign invaders. They were the Nigerian Army. This is the story of the Zaki-Biam Massacre, a story of injustice, denial, and forgotten memory. A story that asks a simple but haunting question. What happens when the state meant to protect becomes the executioner? Zaki-Biam is not just any town. It is the beating heart of Tivland. Every year, thousands of tons of yams pass through its market. Traders from across Nigeria, even beyond its borders, come here to buy and sell. But beneath this thriving economy lies a history of tension, especially between the Tiv and their Jukan neighbors. For decades, disputes over land, political representation, and ethnicity simmered. Sometimes they boiled into violent clashes. By the early 2000s, the Tiv-Jukan conflict had already claimed lives, displaced families, and destabilized communities. Into this fragile environment came the Nigerian Army, deployed supposedly to restore peace. But in October 2001, what followed was anything but not peace. October 10th, 2001, 19 Nigerian soldiers were ambushed and killed near Vas, close to Zaki-Biam. The attack was brutal. Their bodies were discovered days later, mutilated. The army was outraged. Nigeria mourned its fallen. On October 22nd, a state funeral was held in Abuja. The 19 soldiers were buried with honor. But while the nation grieved, the military prepared its response. And that response would not be a targeted pursuit of the killers. It would be a scorched earth campaign against entire communities. From October 19th to 24th, 2001, the Nigerian Army descended on Benue State and Benue communities. Geji, Vase, Anyan, Dur, Kiado, Sankara, and Zaki-Biam were all swept and ransacked. The soldiers did not come for dialogue. They came with fire, with heavy weaponry, armored vehicles, and helicopters. Not against the killers of their men, but against helpless citizens. And what followed was not law enforcement. It was reprisal. Eyewitnesses say soldiers rounded up men into market squares. In Geji, villagers recall how men were forced to lie face down before gunfire erupted. In Zaki-Biam, men were separated from women and children, then shot. Homes were set ablaze. Barns filled with yam harvest, entire livelihoods reduced to ashes. Loft smoke mixed with the screams of those fleeing. When it was over, silence. The exact number of deaths is disputed. The Nigerian government claimed far fewer, but human rights groups documented well over 100 civilians dead. But the locals said more than 200. What is certain is this: a population was punished for the killing of soldiers they did not commit. At first, the federal government denied the scale of what had happened. Officials downplayed the reports. They insisted the army had acted within rules of engagement. But international organizations told a different story. Human Rights Watch published a devastating report, Military Revenge in Benue, a population under attack. Amnesty International released urgent briefings demanding investigation into reprisal killings. Eyewitness testimony, photographs, burned out villages. The evidence was undeniable. Yet, despite the weight of proof, no soldier was tried. No officer faced consequences. The chain of command remained untouched. The killings had taken place, but accountability absent. And for survivors, the silence from the state felt like a second violence. In 2007, 6 years after the massacre, the Chief of Army Staff, General Andrew Owai Azazi, publicly apologized to the people of Benue. He admitted wrong had been done. He bowed before grieving communities. It was rare, unprecedented. Around the same time, victims took their case to court. In a landmark judgment delivered by Justice E.N. Auta Aboki of the Federal High Court, the government was ordered to pay 41.8 billion naira in compensation to the people of Zaki-Biam. It was a massive sum, a recognition, at least on paper, that the state had done wrong. For a moment, it seemed justice was possible. But justice delayed is justice denied. And in this case, justice was also diluted. The judgment was contested. Negotiations slashed the amount. Reports say only a fraction, if anything at all, ever reached actual victims. Some survivors claim they never saw a single naira. Others say political elites hijacked the payout. Compensation without accountability. An apology without consequence. A wound covered but never healed. Today, Zaki-Biam's yam market thrives once more. Traders return. The piles of yams grow high again. But beneath the market stalls lies memory. The massacre of 2001 has no national memorial, no commemorative day. It is absent from school books, absent from national history, absent from justice. For survivors, the pain remains. Widows who lost husbands, children who never saw their fathers again, farmers who lost everything. The scars are not just physical, they are generational. They are carried in silence, and to forget is another kind of killing. But at the center of this tragedy stands one man, President Olusegun Obasanjo. Nigerians hailed him in 1999 as the father of a new democracy, but beneath civilian robes beat the instincts of a soldier. In Odi, Bayelsa, 1999, the army flattened a town. In Zaki-Biam, Benue, 2001, the army slaughtered its people. To his admirers, Obasanjo was a strong man, keeping Nigeria united. To the victims, he was the face of state terror. He offered apologies, but he never took personal responsibility. He preached democracy, but practiced military repression. Obasanjo became the paradox of Nigeria's Fourth Republic, the man who gave us the ballot box, but left us mass graves. Zaki-Biam was not an isolated wound. It was part of a pattern. Odi, Bayelsa, 1999. Zaki-Biam, Benue, 2001. Gbaramatu, Delta, 2009. Zaria, Kaduna, 2015. Obigbo, Rivers, 2020. Again and again, the Nigerian state has turned its guns inward, against its own citizens. Different presidents, different regions, the same story. The same pattern, collective punishment, entire communities wiped out. No soldier ever held accountable. This is the culture of impunity, and it was Obasanjo who set its tone in the Fourth Republic. Zaki-Biam is more than a massacre. It is a wound on Nigeria's conscience. The survivors still live with scars. The children grew without fathers. The farms never fully recovered. The $41.8 billion judgment remains a broken promise. In the silence of government, in the absence of justice, Zaki-Biam remains Nigeria's buried shame. History will not move on. History will remember the corpses that littered the roads. History will remember Governor Akume, who watched helplessly. History will remember Justice Alago, who ruled boldly. History will remember Obasanjo, the president whose apology could not wash the blood from the soil. And history will remember the victims, waiting still for a justice that may never come. Each time, the pattern repeats. Mass killings, denial, apology, compensation battles, but never accountability. Justice is not about courtrooms, because no courtroom can restore lost lives. Justice is not only about apologies, because no apology can replace the silence of fathers, the tears of widows, the childhoods shattered. It is about naming perpetrators, holding them accountable, telling the truth, and remembering the victims. To speak of Zaki-Biam today is to resist silence, to remind Nigeria and the world that injustice forgotten is injustice repeated. Because when the state kills its own and walks away, the question remains, who protects the people from their protectors? A democracy that buries its massacres is a democracy built on graves. And until Nigeria confronts Zaki-Biam, its conscience will never be free. What can we learn from the Zaki-Biam Massacre? Has the Nigerian government done enough to address the root causes of violence and impunity in this country? And what role do you think digital activism can play in bringing attention to human rights abuses and military rascality in Nigeria?